All right, here we are. We are a month after the Dream for All voucher window has closed, and we've heard nothing. Crickets, no information from CalHFA other than, hey, it's taken us longer than we thought. This doesn't surprise me. What I want to do is I want to give you an update because I have so many people who are asking me, John, I don't know what's going on. I haven't heard anything. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I want to really fill you in on exactly where we're at and what is happening. So first of all, when will I know if I won? That's the $1 million question. CalHFA is now saying mid to late June. Okay. They had started by saying, hey, we're probably looking at about early June. They sent that out in the beginning of May. And then they pushed it out. And a week ago, they said, hey, we're looking at probably mid-June. And we suggested everybody plans for the end of June just to be safe. So understand this is a process they have never embarked upon before. They had no idea what it's going to look like or what the timeframes are going to be. And so we don't have any option but to wait. Now, there's good news for those of you who are waiting, which is I'm hearing from more and more clients that aren't willing to wait, that have said, you know what, forget it. I'm not going to keep waiting and hoping. I'm going to go ahead and buy something. And every time somebody does that, that's one less person you're in competition with. If that person wins a voucher, they're going to withdraw. That voucher is going to go to somebody on the waiting list. So there is good news in that there's some attrition that's happening right now. We're thinning out the herd of the people who are deciding it's not worth it for me to wait. So when are we going to know if you won? We don't know. But right now we're looking at late June as the best expectation, and you're going to have 90 days from the time you get the voucher to find a home. So be prepared and be ready with what your options are. And that really brings up one of the questions I'm getting from a lot of people. By the way, if you have not talked to me yet and you maybe got pre-approved with another lender and you say, I don't know what my options are, I can sit down and show you what options are. You need to know, hey, what's going to happen if I don't get my voucher? For a lot of people, they don't want to think about it. They think it's bad luck. Hey, if I think about what's going to happen if I don't get a voucher, then I'm accepting the chance that I might not get a voucher. I'm cool with that. But just know that if you don't get accepted on a voucher, then we've got to talk about options. And there's a lot of programs that are out there. There's a lot of opportunities to buy a home, but they're not going to be anywhere near as good as the Dream for All program. So you really have to know, hey, am I willing to make this purchase? I spoke with a client yesterday who had been following me on my channel, and I talked to them and their spouse. Actually, their spouse was not on the call. But as we talked about it, they said, you know, if we don't win Dream for All, we're not going to buy. And they are good income earners. They make a good income. They're paying a lot of money in taxes. But the reason was, hey, I don't want to spend more than a certain amount of money per month for a mortgage payment. And I was showing them, they were looking at somewhere in the $750,000 price range. And I said, you know, just your tax savings alone is at least $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year that they're going to save by being a homeowner compared with being a renter. And when we ran the numbers to say, hey, on that same $750,000 home, your payment with Dream for All might have been, $4,750 a month. Without Dream for All, it might be over $6,200 a month. That's a $1,500 bump in payments between what they were going to pay in Dream for All and what they might pay without Dream for All. But at least $1,000 of that, they would get an additional tax write-off. And so you say, wait a second, that means I'm only really, if I'm staying as a renter versus buying, and my only option was Dream for All, if you can afford the payment, you have to remember, hey, that extra payment you're making because you didn't get Dream for All, that's offset in large part by a tax write-off that you won't get if you stay as a renter. That doesn't even account for the fact that part of your monthly payment goes back in your pocket as future principal or future equity that you're getting in your home, that you get to tap into as cash out down the road. You get to put in your pocket down the road. And when you sell the house, so there's in that pay down, that money you're paying down your balance, you don't share that portion with CalHFA. You get 100% of the money you've paid down the balance, because CalHFA is only sharing a portion from what you purchased the home for compared to what you sell it for down the road. And if you don't use Dream for All, you're not sharing any of that. And the final thing you're giving up if you decide, hey, I'm not going to buy, you're giving up future appreciation. In California, house prices go up typically on average 5 to 6% per year. But even at a moderate 2% per year, for this client buying a $750,000 home, that's $14,000 a year, or an additional $1,200 a month in appreciation. Now, house prices don't go up every single year by the exact amount, but some years they go up 10 or 15%. Some years they drop 1 or 2%. You see the average over time being around 5 to 6%. So if you don't get selected, if you don't win, don't give up. Don't say, oh my gosh, forget it, I'm not going to be a homeowner. It's about, can we A, figure out a way to qualify you for the home at the price that you need? And B, how can we make it work in your budget? Maybe we take some of that tax savings and have you sit down with a financial advisor, specifically a tax preparer, and figure out how you can adjust your withholdings so that the amount of money you're taking out of every single paycheck is less towards taxes and you get to take home more money. If you're taking home more money, I see your question, brother. If you have questions and you're watching live, post them and I'll look at them in a second when I put my glasses back on. So you get to change your withholdings and keep more of your monthly paycheck. I talked to another client and we talked about, hey, maybe, just maybe, you slow down your 401k contributions. Because putting money into the 401k, even if you're getting a 1-to-1 match from your employer, you might be putting in $10,000 into your 401k and the employer matches another $10,000. So by not doing that, you're giving up $10,000. But you're picking up $15,000 in appreciation on a home, plus you're getting a tax write-off that you wouldn't get otherwise. And you can incrementally increase your 401k contribution down the road. You can say, hey, you can't incrementally become a homeowner. So you treat 401k like a volume knob. You can turn it down a little bit and then you can turn it back up as maybe you're able to refinance down the road. Maybe as your income goes up, you can say, hey, I'm going to notch up that 401k contribution back to the 5 or 6% that I was doing. But treat it as a volume knob because home ownership is a light switch. You turn it on or you turn it off. Now you got to remember, sometimes it's a light switch that turns on the little light that goes over the bathroom mirror and not the big light that shines over the entire bathroom. And what the heck did that analogy mean? That sometimes you don't get the house you want. Sometimes you have to compromise and say, hey, to turn on the light switch to become a homeowner, I first need to find a home that I can be willing to live in that meets enough of my needs that gets me into the game. Okay, it's a light switch to get in the game, and then you can switch, turn off that light and turn on another one to get to a different home. But you got to treat other savings and investments like volume knobs. You turn them up and down. All right, let's look at a couple of the questions I've got here. Billy says, thanks for all the videos, much appreciated. Absolutely, Billy, I am happy to help. And Jess asks, any word on when the winners will be notified? Jess, you missed the first 2 minutes of my meeting. So that's exactly what I started with. And that's okay. I'm happy to help give you the answers. So they're saying about a month from now. They're saying late June before we find out when you're going to know who the winners are. It's kind of sad that I'm getting old and I have to put glasses on every time to read. Anyway, so we're going to know in late June where we're at. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's more delays. Like the challenge is that CalHFA doesn't know what they're doing. I'm not complaining. I'm not knocking them. I'm saying they've never been down this road before. They're embarking on a brand new challenge that they've never undertaken. And so they're underestimating how hard of a task this is going to be. And so they are now looking at mid to late June, and it wouldn't surprise me if it got pushed off further. CalHFA releases information via their public e-news, but they also send additional information to preferred lenders. So I get some extra information that you guys don't get. So right now I'm telling you everything that I know is we're looking at mid-June at the earliest. Late June is probably more realistic, and they've already 3 times kind of pushed out the date. So is it possible we could get pushed out into July? Yeah, it's absolutely possible we could get pushed out into July. So Jess, thank you for that question. All right, so we talked about the first question. When will I know if I won? We've covered that. We talked a little bit about what if I don't win, and we talked about spent a few minutes just now talking about that. One of the things that I'm running into is people who are saying, John, I'm starting to write offers now because we're supposed to find out soon about Dream for All. Be really careful. Be really, really careful about that. I had another conversation with another client yesterday who's in contract right now, and their lender has them moving forward as if they are approved for Dream for All. And this client called me, they're not working with me, and said, John, I'm getting nervous. I'm getting nervous because I'm asking this lender, hey, what happens if I don't get selected? And they said, no, don't worry about it. Everything will be fine. And they said, hey, well, what is the backup plan if I don't get a voucher? Like, I'm worried, especially because I'm supposed to close this late June, and we might not find out who the winners are until late June. So what am I going to do? And the lender said, no, don't worry. Everything will be fine. That's scary. Like, that is super scary. You need a lender that has a game plan that tells you specifically. And she and I sat down last night and we came up with a game plan, and adding somebody else to the loan and going with a different program. And their income limits are too high to qualify for most down payment assistance programs. But I've got a program that has 0 income limits and still provides you up to 5% of the down payment, even if you're not a first-time home buyer, because her cosigner is not a first-time home buyer. So there's a huge opportunity to look at different programs, but you've got to have someone who understands those programs. And I am that person. So that brings up kind of the next point, which is what happens if I don't like my current lender? You have an option. You are not required to stay with your current lender. And so I'm going to pull up this one really quickly here. If you are working with a lender that you don't feel comfortable with, that you're saying, they pre-approved me, but either they're non-responsive and not answering my questions. When I ask them what's happening, they say, oh, don't worry about it. Everything will be okay. That's not a true professional that's looking out for your best interest. They're kind of just egging you along and hoping that everything works out. And I don't know about you, but hope is not a strategy. Like, you have a 1 in 10 chance of getting accepted for the Dream for All lottery. That means 90% of the people that have applied are not going to get accepted. That does not mean that you should roll over and play dead, but it means you should look at reality and start talking about what your options are. And so when you say, hey, am I going to write an offer right now? Well, do we have a backup plan? Will you qualify? Are you willing to buy using that backup plan? This client that I talked to last night, they're in love with the house. They're like, I'm happy. I'm really, really happy with this house, but I'm worried because I'm spending money on inspections. I'm trying to figure out how I can qualify for this if I don't use Dream for All. And the truth is, I don't think it was a good idea for them to get in the contract thinking that they could use Dream for All. We don't know when the vouchers are going to be released. I've said it a couple of times on this stream. We don't know if it's going to be June 15th, June 29th, July 15th. We don't know. And so we have to figure out what your strategy is. And if you're willing to buy a home without Dream for All, go for it. Like, do it, because there's going to be less competition today than there is when the 1,800 to 2,000 of you get selected and everybody is swooping in to try and buy a home. And it's going to be harder to get an offer accepted. So is it a good idea to write an offer now? Sure, if you're willing to use the backup plan and that you're ready to start going down that road. Otherwise, it's a big crapshoot, and you got to make sure you have the right lender guiding you through the process. And so if you don't feel comfortable with your lender, if you've already gotten pre-approved for Dream for All or any other program, and you're feeling like, I'm not getting the guidance, I'm not getting the education that John's giving me on YouTube for free. Well, I want you to understand, I don't get paid as a YouTuber. I don't have enough subscribers. Tell your friends to subscribe and watch so I can get paid for YouTube as well. I'm happy to educate, but I'm doing this to help find buyers that want to utilize my services to buy a home. Okay, that's how I get paid. That's how I feed my family. And so if you feel like I'm providing you good value and that you feel like, man, I wish I had picked John, you have the chance. You can choose to scan right here and you can pick me. We can start the process. We can get you pre-approved and we can get the process moving forward. So it is not something where it's too late. It's only too late once you've gotten into contract and they've locked a loan with CalHFA. As soon as a loan is locked with CalHFA, they cannot transfer that. CalHFA will not allow that to be transferred from one lender to another. So if you don't like your current lender, I'm not telling you to bail on your lender for no good reason. But if you're not getting good communication from them, if you feel like they don't have your best interest at heart, I'm interviewing for the job to be your lender, and I'd be honored to have the opportunity to do so. Final thing I want to mention, what should I be doing right now to be prepared? That's a big question. So most importantly, CalHFA announced yesterday or the day before that there is another round of validations that are being sent out to a select percentage of the people who are in the registration portal. Let me say that in a different way. They sent out emails and notifications in the portal to a segment of the people that registered saying, we need more information. And you have a deadline. The deadline is next Wednesday at 5 p.m. I believe that's the 29th. I'm positive it's Wednesday. So next week on Wednesday at 5 p.m. is the deadline to get whatever information they've asked for. So check your email, check your spam folder. More importantly, log into the CalHFA portal and check the registration portal to see if you have any tasks assigned to you. If you do, you have until Wednesday at 5 p.m. to get that information, Wednesday the 29th, whatever, 2 days after Memorial Day. You have until Wednesday at 5 p.m. to get that information uploaded for whatever they're asking for. And if you don't, then you're out of the lottery. So whatever criteria they use, I don't know what they're looking for, but whatever criteria they used, you have until that day, 5 p.m. on Wednesday, to get it uploaded. They also made it really clear, don't read anything into it. They have not done the lottery selections yet. So I thought that they were only going to go to the deeper level of auditing for the 1,800 to 2,000 winners. It kind of looks like they're auditing everybody. I don't know, because clearly it's taken them longer than they thought. Clearly they're telling us, hey, if you got a notification of a task, don't read into that saying that you're likely to be selected. That's what I thought. I thought if you got a task assigned, that's a good sign, because they're not going to waste their time on all 18,000 people when they only need 2,000 winners and 2,000 backup people. So don't read anything into it, is what we're being told. I'm not sure if they're just trying to minimize expectations or if it really is true and they're validating everybody. But the most important thing you should be doing right now is A, checking your portal. The second most important thing you should be doing right now is making sure that your income is in line with where it needs to be. New income limits were put out by, not from CalHFA, but new income limits were put out by the federal government a month ago. And in most counties, they stayed the same or went up just a little bit, but a few counties went down a little bit. And we're worried. I expect CalHFA is likely to put those into place by early July. And so that might help you, it might hurt you, but you definitely want to be thinking about, hey, if I have any variable portion of my income, has it changed since I did my pre-approval? Am I on track? Like if I do overtime, is my overtime on track, trending up or trending down? Because that can change completely how much you're qualified for. That can change completely what the numbers look like for your eligibility. And so you have to make sure that you're on track, and that if you need to work extra overtime or if you need to slow down your overtime because you're going to exceed your income limit, you need to be aware of that. You need to make sure that you're not violating those numbers. And so if you haven't had that conversation with your lender, you should. If your lender doesn't understand how to have that conversation, right here, work with me, okay? The final thing I want you to do is to really make sure that your credit is still on track. Because whether your lender did a credit a month ago or 6 months ago, credit reports are good for 4 months from the day the credit was pulled. And so you are likely going to need a new credit report to be done. And depending upon utilization being the number one thing that can kill you on your credit, utilization is how much you owe compared to your credit limit. And it's a once a month snapshot. It's a picture of a moment in time that says right now, how much do you owe compared to your credit limit? And your credit card company sends that information on a random day once a month. So if you ended up that you had some high expenses, you maybe had some work trips you had to go on, and you charged it on your credit card in order to get points. Well, that might have increased your utilization to a high percentage, showing that you're close to maxing out your credit limit, or worse yet, you're over the limit. That is a major problem for your credit score. It's easy to fix. You pay down the balance. But it can take a month to update unless we do a rapid rescore, and that isn't always effective either. So pay attention to your credit. Go log on to myfico.com. By the way, don't simply look at what your credit card app says your credit score is, because the score that matters is your mortgage credit score. Most apps don't give you your mortgage credit score. They give you a credit score, but it's not your mortgage credit score. One of the only ones that I know of that gives you your mortgage credit score is myfico.com. You have to pay for it. Once you're in there, you sort the different types of credit scores and you're able to pull your mortgage credit score. So really, really important for you to understand that your credit, your income, your assets, all of those things are going to be revalidated. You've got a month before we think the vouchers are going to be out. You need to be thinking now about that. You need to be thinking about what neighborhoods you want to buy in. You need to be starting to engage the services of a realtor to say, hey, I'm in the lottery for Dream for All, and I'm trying to figure out what price range and what neighborhoods I should be thinking about. Now, recognize a real estate agent doesn't get paid unless you use them to buy a home and they successfully complete the purchase. So when you're right now just kind of kicking tires, to ask a realtor to take you out every weekend for 6 hours to look at homes, that's not really appropriate. Okay, you're not ready as a buyer unless you're ready with a backup plan that does not include Dream for All to say, hey, if I find my right home at this price point, I'll buy today. If that's the case, get that realtor out there. But if you're just kicking tires, just respect that they're paid only when a deal closes. And as much as you say, hey, but that's their job, it is, but they also are looking at where they prioritize their time. And right now, if you don't have a backup plan to qualify without Dream for All, you're really wasting the realtor's time and yours by regularly going out and looking at homes. Instead, start looking at homes yourself using open houses. Lots of open houses open on the weekends. Drive around, go onto any of the number of apps that are out there for real estate and find all the open houses in the neighborhoods you're considering. Check out the neighborhoods, walk through the open houses, get a feel for what's out there and what price it is so that you have a better understanding when you get selected for your voucher, that you know exactly what your options look like. It's really, really critical for you to be prepared, but don't get too far cart before the horse, like the client story I said earlier today. Guys, that's about it. I'm going to recap really quickly. If you're watching live, I got about 24 people watching live right now. If you're watching live, post any questions you have to comments right now. If you're watching recorded, post the comments. I'll come back later. Quick recap for anybody that's catching this late on the live stream. We're looking at about a month from now. We're looking at mid to late June before we find out about vouchers. There is everybody who is in the portal right now has been scrubbed, and some of those people have tasks and they only have until next Wednesday at 5 p.m. I believe that's the 27th. I'm not looking at a calendar. Positive it's Wednesday at 5 p.m. That's your deadline to get whatever tasks they've asked of you uploaded into the portal. So make sure you're working on that. Make sure that you're keeping yourself educated about what's going on in the market. And just know, if you don't feel comfortable with the lender you're working with, I for sure right now, I'm interviewing for the job to be your lender. Scan that QR code and let's get the process moving forward. Doesn't look like I have any questions, so I'm gonna go ahead and let everybody go. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope everybody has an absolutely wonderful day. Enjoy your holiday weekend. Bye-bye, everybody.